the first shots, we see the girl regaining consciousness in the basement. She doesn't remember who she is or how she got there. In addition, both her legs were broken and her head was injured. The man, who introduced himself as Thomas, said that her name was Ruby. She was 25 years old, the only child in the family, studied law, and was still afraid of the dark. Thomas kidnapped her and intends to hold her until she falls in love with him. Thomas briefly explained the rules. He will feed Ruby 3 times a day, give her painkillers and birth control, and help her bathe every 2 days and go to the toilet, as she cannot do this on her own with her injuries. The lights in the basement are turned on at 7 a.m. and off at 11 p.m. The nearest settlements are 10 miles away, so there is no way to escape or call for help. Ruby doesn't understand anything. She sees a bracelet with her name on it, but she can't remember anything. She refuses to take the pills, but the kidnapper insists, saying that she will only harm herself. No further information can be obtained from him, but Thomas has left her purse on a chair in the basement. Left alone, Ruby was able to reach her bag. Inside, she found a few things, including her driver's license and a tennis ball. When she heard footsteps, she hurried back to her seat, but the tennis ball fell out of her hands, and she had to hide it in her pocket so that the kidnapper wouldn't realize she was doing anything. Thomas strongly advised her not to move, as it could cause irreparable damage to her health. Ruby continued to ask Thomas what was going on. He reminded her that he intended to keep her until she fell in love with him, and that he was giving her birth control pills not because he had any indecent intentions, but to stop her menstrual cycle because it was more convenient. When asked if he hated the girl before she was abducted, Thomas reacted aggressively. As promised, Thomas helped Ruby wash and do other necessary tasks. One day, when she was alone, she reached into her purse again and began comparing the photo on her driver's license with her reflection in the mirror. Thomas was secretly watching her the whole time. Then Ruby broke the mirror, and when she heard Thomas doing something behind the door, she hid a large piece of glass in her leg bandage. As time passed, Thomas kept the basement tidy and constantly reminded Ruby that she would not be able to escape. This went on day after day. One day, Ruby asked her captor what would happen if she could not love him, because love does not work like that. She tried to be calm and deliberately friendly so as not to make him angry. She never got an answer, but Thomas promised to bring her anything she wanted. So Ruby asked for a blanket, a pillow, and a book. When she got what she wanted, she began to read the book and realized that she had read it once before. Thomas said it was her favorite book, and he had prepared well before he began to implement his plan. He brought her red tea, which she loved before she came here. Her associative memory was triggered, and she immediately had hope that her memories would gradually return, because these objects are like triggers for her brain, as Thomas explained. While studying the book, Ruby found a coded clue in a mirror fragment. Never trust it. That's how she realized that there had been other girls here before her, and there were many of them. During her first dinner with Thomas, she asked him directly about it, but he assured her that Ruby was his only one, and he had no one else. After solving the next clue, she found a cache in the wall with many used matches with which to write the messages. During the next dinner with Thomas, she apologized for her behavior and asked him to light a candle to create a romantic atmosphere. To divert his attention, Ruby began to tell him about a dream she had, how she was sinking deeper and deeper underwater, but at the last moment someone pulled her out. Thomas listened attentively while she quietly took the match away. When she was alone, she removed the bandages from her legs and found no injuries. Ruby began to take her first confident steps, secretly from her captor. At some point, she had visions of a man in a white coat injecting her with some kind of injection. She was unclear whether it was a memory or just her imagination. At night, Ruby deciphered the clues, practiced her physical fitness, but did not show that she was feeling much better. Whoever had left her those messages had advised her to pretend to be sick, so Ruby did just that, waiting for the right moment. One day, Thomas prepared a special meal for her. After tasting it, Ruby remembered sitting in a restaurant with a man, eating the same dish and having a great time. Thomas admitted that it was him, and that he and Ruby had been dating and were happy. However, she was not sure of the authenticity of these memories, nor was she sure that she had had dinner with Thomas. Ruby managed to look through a narrow little window under the ceiling. She realized that she was really somewhere in the middle of nowhere, with water all around her. For days on end, she read and drew and talked to Thomas. One day, when he fell asleep in her room, Ruby tried to leave the basement, but did not have time because Thomas woke up. She said she was just bored and wanted to know what was behind the door. To create a romantic atmosphere, Thomas turned on some music and asked Ruby to slow dance. In her memories, she also danced with a boyfriend, and they confessed their love to each other, even though Ruby already had a boyfriend. She was already confused about what was true and what was a lie. To show his level of trust, Thomas gave Ruby a remote control to control the lights and music. Ruby decided to dance for him, and when it came to the fun part, new memories came back to her, and Thomas helped her to restore the full picture of events. That night, Ruby was sitting with her friend at a bar, and he asked her why they hadn't been intimate for so long. Ruby kept trying to joke about it. Soon after, in a state of intoxication, they went home, and on the way, Ruby ignored calls from Thomas. When her friend walked her home, he would not accept her refusal, and eventually used force to get what he wanted. At this time, Thomas arrived at her house, driven by a friend named Rob. Inside, he found a horrific scene, and in a fit of emotion, he killed the guy who had caused Ruby great pain. He also realized that Ruby had lost her memory because of the beating. Thomas decided to take her with him. He convinced Rob not to go to the police, and he agreed to drive them far north. Ruby remained in a semi-conscious state and did not remember anything. Thomas then stole a boat and took her to an island where he found an abandoned farm. He kept Ruby in the basement, aiming to bring back her memories or form new ones. Thomas studied all the available information about her condition and noticed that if Ruby slept for a long time, she would lose her memory again, and he would have to start all over again. He developed a methodology and played out various scenarios in front of her, even pretending to be a doctor, decorating the basement as a hospital room. Now he had to play the role of a kidnapper who had to make her believe that her legs were broken, and it finally paid off. He had given Ruby her memories back, and now he was happy, and Ruby seemed to be happy too. It was just the two of them here, and there was passion between them. However, when Thomas was hugging Ruby, she pulled out a piece of mirror, and the alarm on his wristwatch went off. Ruby decided to act. She was sure that her memories were fake and that Thomas was just a psychopath. Ruby punched him several times and managed to get out of the basement and onto the street. She ran to the river, but at some point she fainted from exhaustion, and she had another nightmare about slowly sinking under the water. In the final scene, we see Ruby waking up in the same basement, stylized as a hospital room. Thomas, dressed as a doctor, was standing in front of her. He told her that the operation was successful, but Ruby had suffered a memory lapse. Before leaving, Thomas said he would inform her boyfriend that she had regained consciousness. On this sad note, the movie ends. I hope you understood something, because I didn't.